Algebra 1, Lesson 16. This is your cool down. This one was pretty intense, and I wanted to go over it with you for sure. So, we've got this statistical information for temperatures in October, and all the information and all the statistics are found in Fahrenheit. But the person that has done the statistical analysis wants to convert it into Celsius. And so they're wondering if the formula can kind of be applied to all parts of the statistical analysis or not. And so we're really looking into how the conversion from Fahrenheit to Celsius will affect the spread in the center. And so we got to think a little bit outside the box here. It's a challenging way to think. So the first one here wants us to describe how the value of each statistic, all four of these, changes when we do the subtraction of 32 from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So the part that's inside the parentheses. So if we're taking 32 away from the degree totals, what that does is that affects measures of center, but it doesn't affect spread because it's like, think of like taking a dot plot and shifting all of the numbers down 32 or shifting all of the numbers up 32. The spread's not going to be affected by this. So how the value of each statistic changes when 32 is subtracted? Well, mean and median would decrease by 32. Standard deviation and IQR would remain the same. So that's how they're affected by this. So technically, these would go down 32, which would give you 33.3 for the mean, and it would give you 31.5 for the median. But the standard deviation, 9.3 and 7.1 for the IQR, those would remain the same because subtracting and adding to a data set, if you do it to every value, is not going to affect how they're spread apart. But if you multiply them by a fraction, think of taking like numbers and halving them. Is there going to be a difference in taking half or 5/9 of a number if it's smaller versus a larger? You bet it's going to have an effect on it. So how are the values going to be affected whenever we multiply by 5/9? It's going to affect every single one of them. All values would be multiplied by 5/9. All of them. So, this would get multiplied by 5/9. This would get multiplied by 5/9. So would this. So would this. Like they would all be affected by that because that affects the spread because further the numbers that are higher are going to get affected more than numbers that are lower in temperature. And so that might shrink them all together or expand them farther apart depending on what your fraction is in this case. So describe how to find the value of each statistic when the temperature is measured in degrees Celsius. Okay, so for the mean and the median, for those two, you're going to take your statistic, take your stat, subtract it by 32, and then multiply by 5/9. But for the IQR and for the standard deviation, you're going to take your stat and just multiply it by 5/9 because the taking away 32 is not going to have any effect on it. So unless you want a negative number for that information, you just want to multiply it by the 5/9. And that's all you need to know for that particular question. Hope it was helpful. You guys have a good one.